I, F25, can't afford my boyfriend, M30. This is taking a toll on my finances. How do I bring it up without seeming greedy? Well, as I explained in the title, I'm F25, having this issue with my boyfriend, M30, whom I've been dating for a year. Overall, we've had a pretty good relationship and I'm happy. When we started dating, I discovered he was very frugal, which was great because so am I. However, as the year has gone by, I've started noticing that his concept of frugal is very different to mine, and it's reached a point where it's putting a strain on my finances since I'm kind of supporting both of us. Here are a few examples. Unless I suggest otherwise and plan dates, we never go out. If we do go out, he'll only go if I pay for whatever activity I've planned. He's good with not going out on dates and just staying home, which I like, but it gets boring after a while. He doesn't do grocery shopping and doesn't like cooking. He only gets takeout, or once in a while he gets a meal delivery service. A lot of times when I go over to his place and I get hungry, I'm either stuck eating junk food snacks. I prefer to starve than eating processed trash, or I have to go grocery shopping and pay it out of my own pocket, and then cook for both of us. He eats a lot, and whenever he comes to my place he likes me to cook extra so he can have leftovers to take home. I'm okay with this, however, my grocery bill is going up and I'm having to cut corners in other areas of my life. For example, I've stopped driving to work and now I walk 1 hour both ways to save on gas to offset the extra grocery costs. I'm going on a trip next week. I asked him if he'd like to come too, and he agreed after I sent him a spreadsheet with all the costs, flight, expenses, etc., and he agreed to it. I bought the plane tickets and booked the hotel a few weeks ago, and he doesn't seem to have any intention to pay his share of the expenses. It's okay. It's taking a dent on my savings, but I can afford this without going into debt. I'd just appreciate a lot if he told me beforehand he was up for going to the trip only if I paid for it. For reference, it's not like my boyfriend is a broke student or trying to save money because of debt. He makes more than twice as much money as I make, has no debt, no weird addictions, and his net worth is well over $1 million asterisk. I have no interest in him paying for things or treating me like a sugar baby asterisk. I'd just like him to pay his share of joint expenses and dates, but I don't want to start this conversation and have him believe I'm just with him for his money. He's brought up his concerns about money and how he never discloses how much he makes, etc., because he doesn't want women to be after his money, and he doesn't like to spend it because he has a weird OCD about seeing his bank account go up and only up, but this is coming at the expense of mine going down, so, yeah. I don't know what to do. TLDR, my F25 boyfriend, M30, never pays for anything, despite having plenty of money, so I have to, which is starting to take a toll on my finances. I'm no longer sure if I can afford to have a boyfriend.
Slight chance my 39M pregnant wife, 38F, had an affair. Should I ask for a paternity test or wait? My wife, 38F, and I, 39M, have been together for 12 years. I don't know how to describe it other than calling it the perfect relationship. I think in 12 years we've only ever gotten to the point of really raising our voices at one another maybe 2 or 3 times. We do everything together, but always have never had issues allowing each other to lead our own lives and follow our own interests. We bought a house where we wanted. We both have good high-paying jobs that have great work-life balance. Basically, it's been everything short of perfect. We've been trying for 2 years to get pregnant, and it hadn't been happening. We were just about to start the fertility stuff when I came home from a work trip, and guess what? She's pregnant. I had this weird instant thought of, wait, I thought we didn't try during the week last month because of the fertility testing. But I couldn't remember exactly because, to be honest, we were busy at it, so I just assumed I misremembered. Over the last 4 to 5 years, my wife has gotten very friendly with a guy she works with. Let's call him Matt. Matt is slightly younger, I think 34M or so. I know him, he's married, I know his wife. They've worked together for I think 7 years or so. He's always been around him and I have been friendly. Have I ever thought something was happening? No, but I've always thought, you'd be a fool to not think there's even a 1% chance your spouse would go outside the relationship. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always seen it as a safeguard to not take my wife or any other partner in the past for granted. She's never given me a reason to think she'd do that, but anything is possible. So about a month ago, I'm out of state for work and she's at home. I ask her what she's doing earlier in the day and she says Matt is coming by for dinner. Not out of the ordinary, Matt comes by from time to time. Sometimes with his wife, sometimes without, sometimes when I'm not there. I don't think much of it. We have a security system which includes cameras both inside and outside of the house, which we installed after an unrelated incident a few years ago. They record and are live accessible by both her and I. I often use those cameras to check on the dog when I or both of us are away, as the rest of the system is monitored by a company in case of an alarm going off. She knows I check those cameras. There's a system installed where I can talk through them. I'll mess with my wife and she will with me on them if either of us are out of town. She travels for work as well, but far less than I do. Point is, it's known that I check them often when I'm not at home. So I turn on the camera and I see my 4 months pregnant wife lying on the floor on her side with Matt sitting, straddling her legs and using a foam roller to massage her hips. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? I start rewinding through the footage and they are eating and talking normally, but then they get on the couch and get under the same blanket. Now, they are feet to feet, but that couch isn't that big. Then they move to the floor and that's when I logged in. Anyway, I text her. I'm still watching the cameras. They both look like deer in headlights and he very quickly leaves. They get into an argument. She isn't mad at me accusing her, but she's adamant that nothing has or ever would happen, and that what I saw was innocent, and she was complaining about being in pain from the pregnancy, which I know is true. She's already having some issues with back pain, etc. The biggest point of that discussion was I asked, if I were there, would you two have been comfortable doing any of that in front of me? And she reluctantly admitted, no, probably not. I told her I didn't want to talk after that, and we'd talk when I got home 3 days later. That's when it hit me. What if my weird gut moment feeling about her telling me she was finally pregnant was this? What if my 1% happened and this is not my child we are having? Now it eats away at my while I'm at a hotel alone 1,000 miles away for 3 days. I reconcile with myself that I think it's less likely than more likely that something between them has happened. But basically my 1% just jumped to 10%, 20% maybe. I get home and she's on eggshells and doesn't mention it. I kind of wait to see what she's going to do. 2 days later, she finally brings it up and breaks down. Swears nothing has happened, she would never. Doesn't do anything over the top to try and prove anything, which I took as a good sign. But anyway, we talk out the issue and everything to a point at least moving forward for now. I'm still coping and dealing with it, figuring out how to retrust after all this time. I'm getting more and more understanding of the fact that they are friends. They've been friends for so long. Maybe he has intentions. But I don't see her having any, and I've never really picked up on it, and I've spent time around both of them together many, many times and never caught anything. So the thing that is destroying me right now is, if I'm wrong and something did happen, well, I can figure out how to deal with that. What if that child isn't mine? In the argument and few long conversations we've had about the situation since I've never brought that up and she's not mentioned it. Mostly because I don't want to make the situation worse and crush her if in fact she's telling the truth, which I mostly believe. The only thing I can think to do at this point is to wait until the baby is born and immediately order a paternity test in secret. Should I do that? Should I tell her and have it dealt with now? If you're a woman in her shoes and you're telling the truth, would that destroy you or your view of me? If you're lying, what would you do if I asked? I don't want to ask a super vague question, but what do I do? Key LDR. Very small chance my wife of 12 years had an affair and she's 4 months pregnant and I can't bring myself to ask for a paternity test for fear of crushing her if nothing actually happened. But I am planning on doing it in secret when the baby comes. What do I do? Update. So many comments. Thank you everyone, more than I can address directly, but I'm going to keep reading a few things. 1, stop doming me about this, thanks. 2, some have made some good points about addressing it now rather than later, and that's something that I'm considering more than I was before, thank you. 3 to those focus only on my relationship. I get it, but that's not what I'm focused on. We've been talking about it a lot. My wife and I are pretty open people with each other. I'm not saying I'm convinced nothing happened, but I'm more focused on paternity right now. 4, if I need to track Spy on Life 360, my wife, then this relationship is over already. That's not the relationship we have and not one that I ever want, and in my opinion, not one anyone should ever have. We are working on rebuilding trust. As I said in this long-winded post, my default of 1% possibility went up to 10% or so. Trust me, I'm taking my relationship seriously, but to those I've said this to already. If the kid isn't mine, then there's no longer any conversation to have. 5, I've already had this discussion with my lawyer. I don't live in a state where the birth certificate stuff will be an issue. If I have paperwork that this child isn't mine, then divorce isn't going to be much of an issue. Both of us are in an independent financial situation where it won't matter much regardless. I'll keep up with this post as long as I can and post an update when and if anything gets resolved.